Hey guys, Plasma 1945 doing a 2D torture test for those who fly the Tomcat. And this actually has been requested from me from pilots, asking what's the difference and is there an improvement when we're flying in 2D. And here the big difference is the 3090 versus the 4090, of course. But compared to the other torture test, because we're in the Tomcat cockpit, that's adding an extra 5-10 FPS of difference. Why? Well, that's because the Tomcat cockpit is far more detailed with much higher resolution textures and a lot more shadows and detail compared to that of the Su-27, which is not a full fidelity aircraft, and therefore overall its cockpit is lower resolution textures and simpler design. Just look in the Tomcat at all the little nicks and scratches. So those are all images that have to be loaded and processed, and shadows have to be applied to them. For whatever reason, there seems to be a little bit more shadow within the cockpit between the two Tomcats. I'm not sure what's the cause of that, but the lighting settings were the same. But here you can actually see that once we leave the cockpit on the 3090 on the right, it actually gets higher FPS. And again, that's because it's not rendering all those shadows within the cockpit. So we're going to jump back in and fly through here and keep an eye on what's going on. Not sure why there is, I think it's just purely a lighting condition that's adding that extra shadow next to the pilot's canopy in the front. Not quite able to reproduce the sim 100% perfectly, but yeah, there we go. As soon as we're in the shadow, the 4090 video loses that extra glare shadow on the canopy to the left of the pilot. The aircraft will fly the same altitude, and as mentioned in the notes of the video before, all you gotta do is hit fly. Well, first off, download the map, save it to the missions folder in your DCS Open Beta, and then go under replay or go under missions, find this file, and just hit play. Once you hit the fly button, you're going to end up in the pilot seat, but just so that you've got the exact same experience, all you got to do is hit the button 2 on the keyboard, and that'll put you into the Rio seat. And you just sit back and let Iceman drive you around. And of course you can press right control pause once or twice to bring up the FPS stats, and you can monitor those yourself and see how that compares to this video. Now, flying up to this point has been pretty good, but here come the MLRS launches, and they're coming right over the top of the canopy, so you can actually see them heading for the ground targets. This wasn't captured quite as well in the Su-27 torture video because you're kind of flying over them and they're over to your right. But here, as they're coming down, you can actually see the impact from them and literally the impact to your FPS. And that's because each of those munitions that's coming through the sky contains, I think, 96 smaller mini bombs inside of them, sub-munitions, which are all exploding. You can kind of see it to the right of the pilot's head there. All those like white puffs on the ground, those are the explosions going off. And yeah, it's definitely giving a hit in performance to the game. What's interesting is now that we have cleared bombs and the explosions, our FPS is going to go up. And as those extra explosions finish happening, the FPS is going to start boosting back up and we'll be back to normal. Alright guys, Plasma 1945 out. And of course, if you found this useful and helpful, hit subscribe and share.